Hi, BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for a bookish update. So I did finish Passage to India by E.M. Forster. I don't know if I'm going to do I thought about doing a review for it, but I'm not sure. I have not completed my written review that I'm going to post on Goodreads and Storygraph yet, but I'm thinking about, because I feel like I got a lot to say about it, and but I gotta say, I was just thinking about it. One of the things I've thought about over the years, when I do a review that's not fantasy, I feel a little guilty because fantasy, I always say, is my number one genre. I mean, I've definitely tried other genres, and I know there's nothing wrong. It's good if you want to try it. It's good to try other genres, and and it makes your reading more interesting if you don't just read one type of book. But I feel like I don't do enough reviews on what I claim to be my favorite genre, which is fantasy. Not that, I'm sure you guys aren't judging me if I don't share my love for every fantasy book I read. But as I've said in the past, I do struggle with reviewing fantasy, especially the big epic stories. I mean, if it's a very simple plot, like one of the fantasy books I'm currently reading right now, the plot is still it's a lot going on in the story, but the plot is, you're not jumping around with other characters, and it's not epic like Way of Kings epic or Wheel of Time epic or even Lord of the Rings, although Lord of the Rings stays confined, I think, with one group of characters, so that helps a little bit. And I've just watched the movie, so the plot, I'm so familiar with the plot of Lord of the Rings that it's like, it wouldn't be that hard for me to review Lord of the Rings, necessarily. But it's not just about but it's hard for me to review them and I always feel like, okay, not every book is perfect, so there's got to be something that bothers me or that's objectively not good or wrong about this book or something, and it's just very hard, and I feel guilty if I just spend the whole time gushing and also just kind of explaining the plot and everything, and in talking about everything that I love, and it's very challenging for me to do. And just non-fantasy books often are easier for me to review. But anyway, so let's talk about what I'm currently reading. I put down All the Light That Falls by James Islington. I always said Islington, but other people who've talked about his latest book, The Will of the Many, have said Islington, so I'm assuming that's correct. And not Islington. But anyway, and this is a big boy. This is an 800-page mark. So I did put it down for a little bit. I have to say to put it down and come back to it later. Because as I've said in the past, I do want to have more books to talk. I want to have some other books to talk about, not just one book. Because I may as well do a review only if I'm just talking about one book. And if I just focus on that one, I will probably end up reading just one book. And I would like to have more books to talk about for you guys. I mean, I have thought about, for a second, I did consider going back to what I did in 2000, I think it was 22 or 23, where I just did quarterly reviews instead of monthly wrap-ups, or like seasonal, but the only trouble with that was that I kept forgetting to do the wrap-up, and then I read so many books, which, to be fair, I am trying to change that this year. Which I'll talk about that in a little bit. But then I end up forgetting, and I don't remember all my feelings. I mean, and maybe what will help with that is if I take notes more. I mean, it does help writing out my reviews. That's why I still write them, even though I do reviews on here sometimes. But I also don't review every book, and I verbally review every book, I should say, like film myself reviewing a book. But I do write reviews for every book I read. And that does help. That does help me remember things. Not all the details, but remember my initial feelings. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. Like I said, this is one of those books where I'm apprehensive to review it because I'm worried I wouldn't do a good job. And I did look at other people's reviews to see what they loved about it and everything, and just what they didn't love, and see if I agree or disagree with so far. But I haven't got far enough. I was looking, and I haven't got far enough to really see if I agree or disagree. But I did make sure to stop on a chapter, actually, because I do not like it when I stop in the middle of a chapter. Like with Brothers Karamazov, I'm kind of in the middle of a chapter, and I feel like, and it kind of bothers me a little bit. But anyway, and what I want to do is be able to once I finish reading the series, I want to donate it, even though I very much enjoyed it and had a good time, and I'm having a good time with it. I do want to pass it on to Given's bookshop, so their fantasy collection will increase. That's not a struggle because I love fantasy, and trying to decide, okay, which fantasy books can I remove for myself that I'm okay if I share them with someone else. Share them as in I don't get them back unless I rebuy them. Or I have thought about some of the books that if I'm had second thoughts about getting rid of them, or my wasn't entirely sure, but then ultimately I decided to donate them. I thought about, let me just get them on Kindle. So they won't take up as much space, and they'll be at least a little bit cheaper. But yeah, so that's the third and final book in that trilogy. The two after I finished Passage to India, I returned to Anthony Trollope's The American Senator, which is it takes place in Dillsborough, England, and which I don't know if that's a real place or not, if that's a real village or not. It's probably a made-up place. And this family, the Mortons, their American cousin is coming to visit, and our main character, John Morton's his grandmother's not too keen. He's very close with his grandmother, and she's not too keen on this American cousin coming to visit. But, John is like, okay, we gotta welcome him with graciousness, and he's a good guy and everything, and I like him and all that. So he comes, and he's observing England compared to America, and you can definitely see the differences, because there's still, even though we come from England originally, there's still some differences in culture between England and America. So we do see that in him already glimpsing that. He observes, he's a hunter himself, but his hunting is a little different. And he's watching a fox hunt, and these guys find a fox that was poisoned, and they don't like it, and they have suspicions of who they think it is that poisoned him. And now the grandmother's good riddance, because foxes are mischievous critters, and I don't like them, let them kill them all and stuff. They're vicious. Which, yeah, I can understand, I can kind of understand, because some of these wild animals can be dangerous, and they get into your stuff, and they cause trouble, and they can be dangerous, if provoked, because they're getting defensive. They're protecting themselves and their home and everything, and their babies and all that. So I don't blame them for getting defensive. But yeah, I can blame where some humans just don't like critters and want them gone. But I think poison is a little bit brutal. I do not like the idea of poison either. And they do try to get revenge on the guy that they suspect poisoned the foxes, but he is saying that someone else is at fault, of course. We also meet Arabella, who I keep wanting to call her Adela, because that's the name of one of the main characters in Passage to India, one of the main female leads in that book. So I keep wanting to call her Adela, but it's Arabella, actually. And she has to marry John Morton. She has not a lot of options, and her mom's not too keen on that. She doesn't really like him. She's like, I know you don't love him and everything, and he's not that wealthy, so maybe it's not worth it. I do know from the back description there's going to be a bit of a love triangle. But I wonder if it's going to be a love square, and the American Senator character is going to fall for Arabella too. But she's I was going to see this character, This American, is not a good option for her. But I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna be the case. And I was thinking at first that she's gonna be a Scarlett O'Hara type, but now the fact that she's marrying John Moore, because what other option does she have? Like, I don't think she's as privileged as Scarlett O'Hara is, and I don't think she can't flirt with both these guys. Although that description, the way they describe it, makes me wonder if she does get very flirty with Lord Rutherford, who's the other guy. I don't know if we got a first name. I don't remember. I would have to look back in the book. But yeah, and I love that there's a 15-year-old girl who joins the hunt, who is a hunter herself. I love that, Mary. She's, I think, the sister of one of the other characters, the younger sister. And I love that. I love that she's, even though her mom or her grandmother or whoever, I don't remember, is like, she shouldn't be doing this. But I love that she is. That's so awesome that she's doing this. Like, it's so great hearing female characters in these older works of literature doing stuff like that. But anyway, so that is that. I am also reading the second book in the Heartstone trilogy by L. Catherine White. This trilogy, it was Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts who got me to check she recommended this series and this trilogy in one of her videos the first book is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, so she was recommending it as a Pride and Prejudice retelling. And I enjoyed the first book, and I'm enjoying the second book so far, and oh my god, the couple in this, Elizabeth Darcy characters, Eliza and Alistair Daird are just so, like, I love them. They're so cute together. And I'm enjoying what's going on with them in this second book, but they're having to, but yeah, I really like this one. And I feel like this plot is very simple, though. There's a lot of creatures and stuff, and this big war is going on. Like, this second book is basically implying that the war that was started in book 1 is not over yet. It's gotten bigger. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's not a complicated plot, not a lot of plot threads, so I think it'll be easy for me to review the trilogy when I'm done. I just gotta make sure I do book 3 either at the end of this month or in January, so I don't forget things. Because I already spaced out Heartstone and this book, like a few months, so I want to make sure I don't do that with book 3. And they're not super long books. Like I said, I partly put down all the light that falls because I want to have other books to talk about. Like, I know that lately I've been seeing a lot of videos that are going to focus on how consumer culture and counting culture is what Tristan in the classics referred to it as. I don't know if other people use that term, but we're prioritizing quantity over quality. And it's not, for me, it's not that I'm, putting a book that I'm enjoying down because, I gotta get all these books done. Because, Goodreads is recommending to me books that are shorter that I can finish within a day, so I have more books and can meet my goal and everything. Which makes me roll my eyes, and it's like, Goodreads is not helping with consumer culture. But I do want to read this. This was a motivation for me to make sure I pick it up and read it. Was that I want to, have more. I just like to have at least a few books to talk about in a wrap up, because if I don't, then I may as well just not do a wrap up and just do a review. And I have thought about, changing it to going back to what I did a couple years ago, which was doing quarterly wrap-ups. But then I kept forgetting because I read so many, which I am going to try to change it this year. I've read so many books that I couldn't remember everything I read, and I kept forgetting, and then I also would forget to do the wrap-up. Not that, I'm sure you guys are fine with it. Like, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't do my wrap-up. But I'm sure it's a good way to, have a video. Because then what am I doing here? Why would I make videos if I don't, like, have some kind of content? And part of my content is doing wrap-ups. But I think I might, like, I keep saying this, so I can't guarantee this. I might still, because I like TBRs. I like watching TBRs, and it inspires me to make my own TBR. But, I have thought about stopping my TBRs and not doing TBRs. But I think, wrap up, it's a way to explain what you've read. And just talk about your feelings. If you don't do a review, because I definitely don't review every book I read. And, you guys might want to know how I feel about certain books. And it's also content. But yeah, I do want to read this book, and it's just, and I don't want to just read All the Light That Falls, because that's going to take me a long time to read, and then I might not have anything to talk about anymore, or at least I'll only have, once again, current reads to talk about, like what I'm currently reading, and but ooh, that castle. That reminds me, I didn't notice this castle in the background, but it reminds me a little bit of like Cinderella's castle or something, or like a castle in Europe. Which, I mean, the book is inspired by Europe. The setting of this book is inspired by Europe. But it's really pretty. I just noticed that. Sorry. But anyway. So that is what's going on with my reading right now. I am always interested in what you guys are reading right now. Even if, it's, whether it's my kind of book or not, I would love to know, and, what books you're excited about. Are you gonna, Christmas is coming up, so what are you excited about Christmas? What's, are you asking for books for Christmas? Of course, I'm always asking for books for Christmas. And what are you reading Christmas reads? Are you a person who reads Christmas reads? I'm not a Christmas reads kind of person. There's only been a couple books that I'm interested in that are Christmas oriented, like The Nutcracker, Miracle on 34th Street. I thought about reading that book, but I've watched the movie so many times and I've seen the original movie that I just don't know if I would be interested in reading the book. Which I know, again, that's, when it comes to book adaptations, they change things, and so, like, the book probably have differences, but I still might prefer just, watching the movie rather than reading the book. Anyway, so, yeah, so there's not a lot of, possibly wintry reads, though. I would read wintry read books. Like, I loved, what's that book? Winter Night Trilogy. I really love that one. I think that's a great wintry read if you don't read Christmas books. Anyway, so if you do read Christmas books, I would love to know which, if you do, or are you like me and just don't have any interest in Christmas books because it's, you only read it once that year, and then you might come back to it every year, but it's like I don't like books that I definitely would only read once each year. I want to read, I prefer books that I could read more than once throughout the year, and it doesn't feel like it's just specifically that, like a seasonal read. Anyway, if not, I hope, and if you, unless you celebrate other holidays like Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, I don't know what the other holidays are. There's a lot of winter holidays for different cultures. I don't know what they are except for Kwanzaa and Hanukkah. Anyway, so if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below. I really appreciate it. And I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!